Listen to me. Everybody doesn't need access to everything. Everything real doesn't need to be revealed. And everything sacred, that belongs in silence. You want to win in 2025, then stop feeding the world pieces of yourself just to prove you're doing something. Let them wonder. Let them guess. Let them doubt you. And while they're talking, you keep walking. Because lions don't explain themselves to sheep. Because peace doesn't make noise. And because the most dangerous person in any room is the one who moves with discipline, not desperation. You don't need to post it. You don't need to prove it. Just do it. Quietly, relentlessly. Unapologetic ally. That's how you protect your vision. That's how you guard your future. That's how you win. In silence, with purpose, on purpose. Now go move in silence and let the results do all the talking. Ladies and gentlemen, in this loud world of flashing screens and constant updates, privacy has become a luxury. But in 2025, if you want peace, purpose, and power, you better learn what to keep behind closed doors. Let me break it down for you. 7 things. 7 walls to build. Yet 7 locks to click shut. 1, your goals until they're done. Talk less, do more. Everybody's got dreams until life slaps them with reality. Don't invite opinions before results. Don't let people water down your fire with their fear. Build in silence. Win out loud too. Your money, your business. The size of your wallet doesn't need a spotlight. Whether you've got 100 million, wealth whispers. Poverty yells. Stay humble. Stay private. Stay safe. 3, your relationships. Just because you love them doesn't mean you owe the world a status update. Protect your partner. Respect your privacy. Love grows in silence, dies in gossip. Keep what's sacred, sacred. 4, your kindness. Not every good deed needs a hashtag. If your camera's on while your heart is working, ask yourself why. The world doesn't need to see it to believe it. Real kindness needs no audience. 5, your family issues. Listen to me. Not every argument needs a witness. Don't fight for likes. Don't cry for comments. Healing happens in truth, not in trending posts. Protect your family. Protect your peace. 6, your next move. Don't announce your plans like a press release. Success is chess, not checkers. Move smart. Move silently. Then let them ask, how did you do that? And you just smile. 7, your personal beliefs. Now listen carefully. Not everything you believe has to be debated. You don't owe explanations for every conviction. Speak when it matters, but never argue just to prove you're right. Silence can be strength. Knowing when to speak is wisdom. Let me leave you with this. In 2025, people will know your name, your face, your feed, but don't let them own your soul. Hold tight to what matters. Guard your peace like treasure. And remember, the loudest one in the room is rarely the wisest. Would you like this formatted for a YouTube voice over, reel, or written post too? Your goals are sacred. They are born in silence, formed in struggle, and shaped by your deepest desires, fears, and convictions. When you dream, you see something nobody else can see. It's a picture that lives only in your heart and mind, and that makes it fragile. Sharing that vision too early, too loudly, too carelessly, especially in a world that judges faster than it listens, can put cracks in something still under construction. There's a reason foundations go underground first. Builders don't start with the rooftop. They start with the base. Quiet, hidden, strong. That's how your goals should grow in the beginning. When you tell everyone what you're gonna do before you've even taken the first step, you open the door for opinions. Some will doubt you not out of malice, but because their lens is limited. Some will laugh. Some will challenge your ability. Not because they know what you're capable of, but because they're threatened by what you might become. Others will pretend to support you, while secretly hoping you fall short. And the most dangerous of all, the applause that comes too early. The compliments that feel like victory before you've even started the race. That's a trap. Your brain can mistake praise for progress. You start to feel accomplished just for announcing the mission, not finishing it. That feeling tricks people into slowing down, losing momentum, or changing direction based on validation instead of vision. People talk a lot about manifestation. Speak it into existence, they say. And that has its place, sure. But you don't manifest by announcing, you manifest by aligning. You wake up early. You make the hard choices. You stay focused when others get distracted. You walk past comfort to meet discipline at the door. You don't owe the world a press release every time you take a step toward your destiny. You owe yourself consistency, clarity, and commitment. In this age of constant sharing, it feels almost unnatural to keep anything to yourself. You scroll and see everyone posting their goals, their progress, their hustle. It makes you think you're supposed to do the same. But goals are not for entertainment. They're not content. They're contracts between you and your future. And just like any valuable agreement, they deserve confidentiality until they're signed, sealed, and delivered. Not everyone is qualified to hear what's on your heart. Some people don't have the emotional vocabulary to understand your ambition. Some people are too small-minded to comprehend the size of what you're building. You can't let those voices echo in the halls of your mind while you're designing your dream. Protecting your vision isn't selfish, it's strategic. You don't plant seeds and dig them up every time someone walks by. You let them root unseen. You let them rise on their own terms. There's also something powerful about privacy. When nobody knows what you're building, nobody can interfere. There's no pressure to perform, no weight of expectation, no distraction of comparison. It's just you, your effort, and the silent progress only you can measure. That's where real strength grows. That's where resilience is built. In the dark, in the quiet, in the parts of your life nobody claps for. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have mentors or confidants. Everyone needs people who believe in them, but those people are rare. They listen more than they speak. They lift you without needing to be seen. They correct you without humiliating you. Choose those people carefully. Don't cast your pearls before swine. Don't ask for feedback from people who've never dared to do what you're trying to do. They'll shrink your dream to fit their fear. They'll offer advice based on comfort, not calling. You have to understand your goals are not just ideas, they're energy. And energy can be redirected, weakened, or even stolen when you're not careful. That's not superstition, that's awareness. Protecting your goals doesn't mean hiding from the world forever. It means timing your reveal. It means working in the shadows until the light no longer blinds you. Until your work speaks so loudly you don't have to. Think about it. Some of the greatest achievements in history didn't come with pronouncements. They arrived as finished works. Nobody heard the struggle, the sacrifices, the sleepless nights. But when they arrived, they changed the game. That's the power of silence. That's the value of restraint. Let your results be the only proof anyone ever needs. Let your actions be louder than your intentions. Let your journey humble you enough to keep climbing, even when no one's watching. You don't need the world's permission to begin. You only need the discipline to continue. Your income and your wealth are nobody's business but your own. In 2025, where everything is flaunted, filtered, and fed to the algorithm, holding on to financial privacy is more than just good practice. It's a form of self-respect. There's a fine line between transparency and oversharing, and too many people cross it in the name of flex culture. What you earn, what you save, what you invest, it's personal. And keeping it that way protects not only your pockets, but your peace. Money has always been a sensitive topic, but now, in the age of status chasing and digital showboating, it's become a competition. People are out here posting paychecks, cars, jewelry, vacations, hoping to inspire, but often just igniting insecurity in others. Every post becomes a silent invitation for comparison. And when people compare, they often don't just assess, they judge, they envy, they resent. Privacy is the firewall that keeps your dignity intact and protects your relationships from the poison of unnecessary comparison. You might think there's power in showing off your success, but real power doesn't have to prove itself. True wealth is quiet, not because it's hiding, but because it doesn't need validation. The louder the boast, the more fragile the ego behind it. If you have to constantly tell people what you've got, it might be time to ask yourself why. Who are you trying to impress? And what are you trying to compensate for? There's something deeply secure about not needing to be seen to feel successful. When your income isn't on display, it keeps conversations real. People talk to you, not your salary. They value your presence, not your possessions. The relationships you form are authentic, not transactional. You're not attracting friends who only stick around for the perks of the proximity to your shine. You attract people who value who you are, not what you have. Keeping your wealth private also protects you from becoming a target. That's not paranoia. That's reality. When people think you have money, they come with hands out or knives behind their backs. Financial exposure makes you vulnerable to expectations, manipulation, and sometimes even danger. The fewer people who know your net worth, the safer and freer you are to move wisely, without noise, without interference. And let's talk about envy. Not everyone who smiles at your success is happy for you. Sometimes your wins remind others of their losses. Your discipline reminds them of their laziness. Your progress shines a light on their stagnation. And when that happens, jealousy creeps in, subtle but sharp. You start hearing little jabs, fake support, strange tension, all because they measured their self-worth against your success. That's not your fault, but it can become your problem if you make your financial life a public show. Privacy also brings control. When people don't know how much you make, they can't tell you how to spend it. They can't guilt you into giving. They can't question your choices. You maintain autonomy. You call your shots without pressure, without judgment. That's freedom. That's independence. That's what real wealth buys. Not things, but the ability to live on your terms. You don't owe anyone a breakdown of your income or a tour of your assets. If you're doing well, be proud, but be private. And if you're still building, even more reason to stay quiet. Don't let social media timelines rush your financial journey. Don't let someone else's highlight reel make you question your lane. Stay focused. Stack in silence. Let your lifestyle speak for you, not your posts. There's dignity in discretion. There's strength in staying low while aiming high. Not because you're ashamed, but because you're grounded. Because you know what matters more than money. Character, consistency, purpose. Your wealth should be a tool for freedom, not a trophy for attention. The moment you treat it like a status symbol, you start letting it control you. But when you keep it private, you stay in control. So no, your income doesn't belong on your Instagram. Your paycheck isn't a punchline or a pickup line, and your savings don't need applause. Let the zeros stack in your account, not on your feed. Let the world guess. Let them wonder. Let them think you're average while you're becoming exceptional. That's how you move with purpose. That's how you stay safe. That's how you build legacy, not just lifestyle. Your relationships are not public property. They're not entertainment. They're not hashtags, not highlight reels, not something to be performed for likes and views. In a world where everything is posted, shared, tagged, and filtered, the most rebellious thing you can do is keep your love life private. Because what's sacred should be safe from judgment, from envy, from unnecessary opinions. When you expose something delicate to the harsh lights of the internet, you risk turning something beautiful into something breakable. Love is not content. Connection is not clout. But these days, people confuse the two. They think posting their partner every day means the bond is strong. That the more you show, the more you prove. But a real relationship doesn't need proof for the public. It needs presence for the people in it. And the more time you spend trying to make it look perfect to others, the less time you spend actually building something real. You can't nurture something that's constantly being performed. You can't deepen trust while chasing validation. When you keep your relationship private, not hidden, but private, you create space for it to breathe. You give each other room to grow without pressure. You protect your peace from unnecessary comparison. Because the moment you go public, the world starts watching. And they don't just watch, they judge, they speculate, they create narratives. Suddenly, your business becomes their business. A simple argument becomes gossip. A quiet phase becomes a breakup rumor. And now you're explaining your heart to strangers who were never invited in. Privacy doesn't mean secrecy. It means protection. It means you value what you have enough to not put it up for auction. It means understanding that some things become more meaningful when they're shared quietly, intentionally, between two people who know that love isn't something to be consumed. It's something to be lived. When you choose privacy, you choose maturity. You're not hiding because you're unsure. You're protecting because you're serious. There's also a deeper truth that people don't talk about. The more you post, the more you attach your identity to the relationship. And when things shift, when seasons change, when disagreements happen, which they will, you now feel the pressure of the audience. You stay for appearances, you perform happiness, you fear being wrong or embarrassed if it ends. That's not love, that's performance. That's emotional prison dressed up as partnership. Keeping your relationship offline gives you the freedom to be real, to mess up, to grow, to forgive, to try again without having to explain your process. Without eyes watching every move, guessing what's wrong, commenting from the sidelines like they know your story, because they don't. They see 10 seconds, they see one post. They don't see the late night talks, the small acts of grace, the private apologies, the real commitment it takes to stay solid in a world that profits off chaos. Sometimes not everyone is rooting for you. Some people wait for your downfall. They smile at your selfies and secretly hope for your split. Jealousy is quiet until it isn't. When you keep your relationship private, you cut off the fuel. You stop feeding the narrative, you close the door, and only those who deserve to be inside get to witness your love story. There's power in having something special that the world doesn't get to comment on. There's strength in waking up every day, choosing each other. Not for display, but for devotion. You don't need a matching bio or couple's TikTok to prove what you share. You need honesty, respect, effort, and that has nothing to do with the camera. So love quiet, build privately, protect fiercely. Let the loudest thing about your relationship be the peace you both feel, not the posts you both make. Because the deepest love doesn't need an audience. It just needs two people willing to protect it from the noise of a world that thinks everything worth having should be shown. Real kindness doesn't need a spotlight, doesn't wait for the perfect lighting, the right caption, or the applause that follows a viral moment. In a world where generosity is often recorded before it's even delivered, the purest acts of kindness are the ones done quietly, without witnesses, without hashtags, without an audience. Because real charity doesn't come with a camera crew. It comes from the heart. It doesn't crave attention. It answers a need. There's something deeply sacred about doing good when no one is watching. It strips away ego. It strips away performance. Becomes about the person you're helping, not the impression you're leaving. But too often we see kindness being turned into content. A man hands money to the homeless. Someone's filming. A child is fed. And the angles are perfect. A donation is made, and the screenshot of the bank transfer shows up online a few seconds later. It's not always about helping anymore. Sometimes it's about being seen helping, and that's where the meaning gets lost. When you give with one hand and record with the other, you have to ask yourself, who is it really for? Because when your act of compassion is tied to a view count or comment section, you've added a price tag to something that should have been priceless. It may look like generosity, but it's actually a transaction between your ego and your audience. And while the help may still reach someone in need, the integrity of the act is diluted. True kindness is quiet because it's sincere. It doesn't need an announcement or a standing ovation. It's not performative. It's intentional. It's slipping someone a meal without needing a thank you. It's checking on a friend without turning it into a post. It's giving your time, your energy, your presence, not for credit, but because you care. Because that's the kind of person you are, even when no one's watching. There's an old saying, the left hand shouldn't know what the right hand is doing. That's the level of humility real charity demands. Not because it's about hiding your goodness, but because it's about protecting its purity. When you help in silence, your heart becomes louder. Your compassion becomes deeper. You do it not for image, but for impact. And that's when it starts to change lives. We've reached a point where even kindness is being branded. People build platforms off of good deeds. They turn generosity into marketing. And while some may argue that public acts of charity inspire others to give, we have to ask, are we creating a culture of kindness or a culture of performance? Because if someone feels pressure to help only when the camera's on or only when there's recognition, we've missed the point. We've missed the point. Kindness is most powerful when it's pure. And purity can't be staged. The best givers are often the ones you never hear about. They move in silence. They leave no trail, only impact. They understand that the world doesn't need another flashy gesture. It needs consistent, humble action. It needs people who show up, not because it's trending, but because it's right. And if you're doing good for the right reasons, you'll never feel the need to prove it. Your conscience will be your applause. Your peace will be your reward. You don't have to tell the world to validate your goodness. Let your character speak in rooms you never enter. Let the people you help remember the gesture, not your name. That's legacy. That's real. So next time you feel the urge to post your kindness, pause. Ask yourself, would I still do this if nobody knew? Would it still matter if it got 0 likes, no shares, no comments? Because if the answer is yes, then you're doing it right. You're giving from a place of truth. And that kind of giving, silent, steady, selfless, is what the world needs more than ever. Family is the first place we learn about love, loyalty, and sometimes pain. It's where we form our identity, shape our values, and face our earliest battles. But no matter how close or how complicated, one truth stands firm. Your family business is not for public consumption. When conflict arises, and putting it out in the open doesn't solve the problem, it multiplies it. Because airing dirty laundry doesn't lead to healing. It leads to drama, division, and damage that's hard to undo. We live in a world that rewards oversharing. People post their pain like it's performance art. Screenshots of arguments, cryptic captions, voice notes leaked to social media. It's all become part of the online spectacle. But family is not a soap opera, and conflict is not content. When you take private tensions and turn them into public theater, you don't just hurt the people involved, you break something sacred. You betray trust. You feed the fire with attention instead of water with understanding. In every family, there are misunderstandings, disagreements, even deep wounds. But the solution is never public humiliation. It's not shaming your sibling on a story. It's not calling out your parents in a TikTok rant. It's not exposing your relatives to strangers who don't know the context, the history, or the heart behind what really happened. All they see is conflict. All they do is choose sides. And now what could have been addressed in a room gets distorted in a spotlight. Some people justify it by saying, I just needed a vent. But there's a difference between venting to a trusted friend and inviting an audience. One is a step toward healing. The other is a step toward chaos. Once something is posted, it can't be undone. You may heal from the fight, but the internet won't forget. You may forgive, but the viewers will hold on to that grudge on your behalf. You're not just airing issues, you're creating narratives. Narratives that live longer than the pain that caused them. Privacy in family matters is not about pretending everything's perfect. It's about choosing maturity over mess. It's understanding that not everything deserves exposure, especially when emotions are high and clarity is low. You don't need the world to validate your pain for it to be real. You don't need strangers to agree with you for your feelings to matter. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is protect the people you're angry with, because you know love still lives somewhere underneath the frustration. When you expose conflict to outsiders, you also hand over control. You let other people influence how you feel, how you respond, how you define the situation. Suddenly, you're not listening to your family, you're listening to comments. You're being furled by followers instead of forgiveness. You start to care more about proving a point than fixing what's broken. And that's a dangerous place to be, because healing takes humility, not hype. There's also the ripple effect. What starts as one argument posted online can fracture an entire family. It affects younger siblings watching in confusion. It affects elders who feel disrespected. It creates tension at gatherings. It plants seeds of resentment that grow long after the conflict is over. And for what? A moment of attention. A few likes? A brief sense of being a right? That's a costly trade for peace you may never get back. Instead of broadcasting the problem, invest in the solution. Pick up the phone. Sit down face to face. Speak with intention, not accusation. Listen, even when it's hard, apologize. Even when your pride says not to. It won't be easy. It won't be quick. But real healing rarely is. What matters is that it stays between the people who lived it, not the crowd watching from the sidelines. Family is complicated. It always will be. But the ones who matter most are often the ones worth fighting for. Not against, but with. Keep your disagreements off the stage. Work them out behind the curtain. Give your family the chance to grow without an audience ready to throw tomatoes. Not everything needs a comment section. Some things just need compassion, conversation, and a closed door. In a world obsessed with announcing everything before it even happens, there's a certain kind of power in moving quietly. Your next move, whether it's a new job, a new project, a big life shift, or a personal transformation, deserves protection. Not because it's a secret, but because it's sacred. The more you share before it's ready, the more you invite noise into a space that requires focus. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. It's the art of keeping your momentum free from the weight of outside expectations. The minute you tell everyone what you're about to do, you give them permission to weigh in. And most people don't offer wisdom. They offer opinions. Some will cheer, some will doubt. Some will disguise their envy as concern. And some will pretend to support you while quietly hoping you fall flat. When you make your next move public too soon, you allow applause to rush your process and criticism to distract you from it. Either way, you're no longer steering the ship. You're reacting to the crowd. Every major move starts fragile. It needs nurturing, not noise. It needs discipline, not discussion. Before it has structure, before it has roots, it's vulnerable. And when you invite too many voices into that stage, even the smallest doubt can grow into hesitation, can turn into delay. That delay can turn into abandonment. Suddenly, a vision you were so sure about now feels cloudy, not because it's impossible, but because you let too many people touch it before it was strong enough to stand. Staying silent about your next step gives you freedom. Freedom to pivot without explaining yourself. Freedom to fail without a crowd watching. Freedom to succeed without anyone trying to take credit or tear you down. You don't owe updates to anyone who isn't building with you. If they're not in the late nights, the planning, the stress, the strategy, then they don't need to know what's coming next. Social media has trained people to believe that progress must be shared in real time to be real. But real growth, real change, real success, those things often happen in the dark, behind the scenes, in quiet moments of decision-making, discipline, and doubt. When no one is clapping and no one is watching, that's where the strongest moves are made. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, where there's room to think clearly, move wisely, and build something lasting. And when you finally do show up with results, let them be undeniable. Let the work speak. Let the outcome be so solid that you don't have to explain the process. Let people wonder how you did it while you're already planning the next chapter. That's the beauty of moving in silence. When the moment comes to reveal, the impact is louder than any announcement could have ever been. But don't get it twisted. This isn't about fear or insecurity. It's about maturity. It's about knowing that some things lose their power when exposed too early. It's about understanding that every move doesn't need a microphone. It's about being so focused on the mission that you don't need the noise of validation or the fuel of external motivation. You've got your reason. You've got your goal. That's enough. Criticism will come, no matter what. Applause will fade, no matter how loud it starts. But your path is yours. Your vision is yours, and your next move is not a performance. It's a step toward your future. Protect it, build, and let it unfold in silence until the results speak loud enough to echo through rooms you haven't even walked into yet.